Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever listened to someone speaking English, but you only understood half of it? Or maybe you nodded your head, pretending you understood, but deep inside you were completely lost. If that has ever happened to you, don't worry, you are not alone. Almost every English learner has faced this challenge. The good news is there is a solution. And today, we are going to discover it together. Because there is one secret skill that can transform your English completely, a skill that can take you from confusion to confidence. That skill is the art of active listening. Active listening is not just hearing sounds. It is not just letting words pass through your ears. It is something much deeper. It is listening with your ears, with your mind, and even with your heart. When you really listen, you are paying attention, you are catching meaning, you are connecting ideas, and you are feeling the rhythm of the language. And here is the best part. Once you master active listening, your comprehension will grow naturally. And when your comprehension grows, your fluency will follow. Because speaking well always begins with listening well. Think about it. When a baby learns its first language, it does not start with grammar books. It does not start with writing essays. It starts with listening. The baby listens for months and months before speaking its first words. The baby listens to the tone, the stress, the melody, and the rhythm of the language. And slowly, the baby begins to copy those sounds and speak with confidence. This is the same process you can use as an English learner. By learning to listen actively, you will understand more, you will speak more naturally, and you will feel more confident every single day. So stay with me until the end of this video, because I promise you, what you are about to learn can change the way you study English forever. Chapter 1. Why listening is the key to fluency. Have you ever had this experience? You sit at home with your English book. You read a story and you understand it. You write some sentences and you feel confident. You even do a grammar exercise and get almost everything correct. But then, the moment you hear someone speaking English, especially if they speak fast, everything suddenly changes. The words begin to blur together. The sentences sound too quick. You try to catch a few words, but before you understand them, 3 more sentences have already passed. You smile politely, maybe nod your head, but deep down, you are lost. This moment is frustrating, and many learners feel discouraged. They wonder, why can I read and write, but I cannot understand when people speak? The truth is, listening is a different skill. It is the doorway to fluency. Think of it like this. If you want to respond in English, you must first understand what is being said. Without listening, you cannot answer correctly. Without listening, you cannot join conversations. Listening is the first step, and speaking is the second. One always follows the other. This is why listening is not just important. It is the key to unlocking fluency. Now, let's create a picture together. Imagine walking into a room full of English speakers. In the past, this situation made your heart beat fast with fear. You were afraid you wouldn't understand anything. But now imagine something different. Imagine listening and actually understanding. You hear the main ideas clearly. You catch the important words. You even notice the emotion in the speaker's voice. And because you understand, you are able to join the conversation. You laugh at the right moment. You share your thoughts. You feel part of the group. This is what active listening can give you: the power to connect, the confidence to respond, and the courage to keep growing. But what exactly is active listening? Let's explain it in the simplest way possible. Active listening means listening with full attention. It means you are not just letting sounds pass through your ears. You are focusing. You are paying attention to words, to tone, to pauses, and even to expressions. You are not only hearing, you are truly listening. For example, if someone says, "I'm fine," you don't just hear the words. You notice how they say it. Did they say it with a smile and energy? Then maybe they really are fine. Did they say it quietly with a sigh? Then maybe they are not fine, even though the words are the same. This is active listening, catching meaning not only from words but also from feelings, sounds, and context. It is very important to understand the difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is easy. Hearing is passive. Hearing means sounds enter your ears, but you may not pay attention. For example, when a radio is playing in the background, you hear it, but you may not really understand it. Listening is different. Listening is active. Listening means you choose to focus. You decide to notice. You connect the words you hear with meaning. You think about the message. And when you do this, your brain begins to process English more deeply. Let me give you a small example. Imagine you're on a bus. Two people are speaking in English behind you. If you only hear them, you notice some noise, maybe some words, but it passes quickly. But if you listen, you begin to pay attention. You notice that they are talking about the weather. You catch words like rain, umbrella, and tomorrow. You may not understand every single word, but you understand the idea. And that is real listening. This is why listening is so powerful for fluency. When you practice active listening, you are not only training your ears. You are training your brain to think in English. You are building the foundation for speaking. Because how can you speak naturally if you never hear natural English? How can you use the right rhythm, the right stress, or the right tone if you never notice it in listening? Active listening gives you the model, and speaking follows naturally. Think about music for a moment. If you want to play the guitar, you don't just read about guitars. You don't just study music theory. You listen to songs. You listen again and again. You notice the rhythm, the melody, and the timing. And only after listening do you begin to play. The same is true for English. If you want to play the language, meaning, if you want to speak fluently, you must listen first. Listening is your practice, your guide, your secret teacher. So remember this. Listening is not a small part of English. It is not something you do only when you watch movies. Listening is the foundation. It is the bridge that connects learning and speaking. It is the skill that transforms fear into confidence. The more you listen actively, the more you will understand. And the more you understand, the more you will speak. And that is why listening is the key to fluency. It is the skill that opens the door, invites you inside, and lets you join the conversation with confidence. Chapter 2. The secret of active listening. Listening may sound simple, but here is the truth. Listening is not passive. Listening is action. Many people think listening means just sitting quietly while someone speaks. They think it is only about keeping their ears open. But real listening is more than that. Real listening, active listening, means using your brain, your attention, and even your emotions. It means being fully present in the moment. It means taking action with your mind while your ears receive the sounds. When you practice active listening, you are not just letting words flow in and out. You are focusing fully. You are catching the important words. You are noticing patterns in how sentences are built. You are connecting ideas so that the message becomes clear. Active listening is like building a puzzle. At first, you only have a few pieces, but when you look carefully and connect them, the full picture appears. Let's imagine two students. This will help you see the difference. The first student is Maria. Maria is learning English, and she listens to her teacher. But Maria only listens for single words. She tries to translate each word in her mind. When the teacher says, "Yesterday I went shopping with my friend," Maria only catches the word yesterday and shopping. She spends time trying to translate shopping in her head, and while she is busy with that, the teacher's sentence continues. She misses the rest of the meaning. Maria becomes frustrated. She feels that English moves too quickly for her. Now let's look at the second student. His name is Ahmed. Ahmed is also learning English, but he practices active listening. When his teacher says, "Yesterday I went shopping with my friend," Ahmed listens for the whole idea, not just single words. He thinks, "Yesterday, went, shopping, friend." He connects these words. He guesses, the teacher is talking about yesterday, going somewhere, shopping, and with a friend. Even if he doesn't understand every single word, he understands the meaning. And because he listens actively, he feels more confident and less stressed. This is the secret difference. One student listens passively, word by word, and gets lost. The other listens actively, focusing on ideas, and understands much more. Which one do you want to be? Active listening doesn't only improve comprehension, it also helps your memory. When you pay attention and focus on meaning, your brain stores information more deeply. You are more likely to remember words, sentences, and expressions. Think about it. If someone is talking and you are distracted, you forget what they said almost immediately. But if you are really listening, asking questions in your head, and connecting ideas, the memory stays. That is why active listening makes your English stronger step by step. Another secret benefit of active listening is rhythm. Every language has its own rhythm, its own music. English is no different. When you listen actively, you hear how native speakers pause, how they stress certain words, and how their sentences rise and fall. For example, listen to the sentence, "Are you coming with us?" The speaker stresses coming and us. The tone rises at coming and falls at us. When you listen actively, you don't just understand the meaning. You begin to feel the natural rhythm. And later, when you speak, you can copy that rhythm. That is how you sound more fluent. Now let's talk about pronunciation. Many learners struggle with pronunciation because they have never trained their ears. They try to speak English by looking at the words on paper. But English is not always pronounced the way it is written. For example, the word listen has a silent T. The word comfortable is often pronounced comfortable, not comfortably. How can you know this unless you listen actively? When you practice active listening, you start to notice these details. You hear how sounds connect. You hear how words change in fast speech. And slowly, your own pronunciation improves, not because you studied it in a book, but because you copied what you heard. Think of active listening as a gym for your English. Every time you listen actively, you are training your brain, your ears, and even your tongue. You are becoming stronger. You are becoming more natural. You are building the foundation for fluency. So, the secret of active listening is this. Don't just sit back and let English pass through your ears. Be active. Pay attention. Catch the key words. Notice the patterns. Connect the ideas. Listen for rhythm, for stress, for melody. Let your brain work with your ears. Because when you do this, you will not only understand more, you will remember more. You will speak more naturally, and you will sound more confident. And here is something very encouraging. Active listening is a skill you can practice every day. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to understand 100% of what you hear. You just need to listen actively, with focus and attention. Even if you understand 50% today, tomorrow it will become 60%, then 70%, and soon you will notice a big change. That is the secret of active listening. It is not about being passive. It is about being alive, awake, and active with your ears and your mind. And once you begin practicing it, you will see how your comprehension grows, how your memory strengthens, and how your fluency begins to shine. Chapter 3. How to practice active listening every day now that you understand the secret of active listening. The next question is simple. How do you actually practice it every single day? Many learners think they need special courses, expensive books, or years of study. But the truth is, you can start right now with what you already have. Active listening does not need to be complicated. It needs to be consistent. The more you practice, the stronger your listening will become, and the more natural your English will feel. The first step for absolute beginners is to start small. Don't try to listen to a 2-hour English movie right away. That will only make you feel tired and lost. Instead, begin with short audios or videos. For example, you can listen to a short story, a children's cartoon, or a simple English lesson on YouTube. These kinds of materials use slower, clearer language. They give your brain a chance to focus without becoming overwhelmed. Remember, short and simple is the secret to starting strong. Now let's talk about a very powerful method, the listen twice method. This is one of the best ways to train your ears and brain. Here's how it works. The first time you listen, don't worry about details. Just relax and listen for the big idea. Ask yourself, what is this person talking about? Is it about food, travel, family, or work? Don't try to catch every single word. Focus only on the main idea. Then, listen again a second time. Now, pay attention to details. What new words do you hear? How do they connect? What expressions are repeated? With this method, you train your brain in 2 directions. First, to see the big picture, and second, to notice the smaller details. Step by step, this builds comprehension and confidence. Here is something very important that I want you to remember. You do not need to understand 100%. Many learners give up because they feel frustrated when they don't understand everything. But fluency is not about perfection. Fluency is about progress. Even if you catch 50% of what you hear, that is already success. That is already progress. Every time you listen, even when you don't understand everything, your brain is learning. Your brain is training. Your brain is becoming faster and sharper. So don't be afraid of mistakes. Don't be afraid of confusion. Every single listening moment is growth. Another powerful way to practice active listening is to use daily life sounds. English is everywhere. You don't need to limit yourself to textbooks. Try watching a short scene from a movie. Listen to one podcast episode. Play one song in English. But here is the key. Don't try to understand the entire movie or the whole podcast at once. Focus on one small piece. For example, you can take one short scene and listen to it again and again. Or you can choose one song and focus on the chorus. When you practice in small pieces, your brain can concentrate better. Over time, these small pieces connect together and build strong listening skills. Now let me introduce you to a technique that can change the way you learn: shadowing. Shadowing means listening and repeating at the same time, like a shadow follows your body. Here's how you do it. Play a short audio or video. As you listen, repeat the words immediately, copying the speaker's voice, tone, and rhythm. At first, it may feel difficult, but with practice, your mouth and tongue will begin to move more naturally. Shadowing is powerful because it combines listening and speaking at the same time. It trains your ears, your memory, and your pronunciation together. Imagine this. You are listening to a sentence like, "How are you doing today?" You don't just hear it. You repeat it right after the speaker. You copy the stress on how and the rising tone at the end. Slowly, your mouth begins to feel the same rhythm. The next time someone asks you the same question in real life, the words will come out naturally. That is the magic of shadowing. Here is another small but powerful practice. Write down what you hear. Take a short clip, maybe only 10 or 20 seconds. Listen carefully and try to write down the words. Even if you don't get everything, you are training your ear to catch more each time. Later, check with subtitles or a transcript if available. You will be surprised at how quickly your listening improves with this exercise. The most important thing is to make active listening part of your daily life. Just like brushing your teeth or eating your breakfast. It should become a habit. You don't need hours every day. Even 10 or 15 minutes of active listening can make a big difference if you do it consistently. Imagine if you listen actively for 15 minutes every day. That is more than 90 hours in 1 year. Can you see how powerful that is? So here is your challenge. Choose one short audio or video today. Listen twice. Once for the big idea, once for the details. Then try shadowing one sentence. Repeat it again and again until it feels natural. Do this every day. It may feel small in the beginning, but small steps create big changes. Active listening is not about magic. It is not about instant results. It is about daily practice, small improvements, and steady growth. Every time you listen, you are planting a seed in your mind. And with time, these seeds will grow into confidence, comprehension, and fluency. So don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start today, start small, and stay consistent. Because every listening moment brings you closer to the English you dream of speaking. Chapter 4. The power of questions in listening. Have you ever noticed that when you listen to English for a long time, sometimes your mind starts to drift away? Maybe the person is still speaking, but suddenly you realize you are thinking about something else. You hear the words, but you don't really catch the meaning. This happens to many learners, and it is one of the biggest reasons why listening feels difficult. But there is a simple trick that can change this. The trick is asking questions in your mind while you listen. When you ask questions, you give your brain a job. You focus your attention. You stop being passive, and you become active. And the moment you start asking questions while listening, you become an active listener. Your brain wakes up. So what kind of questions can you ask yourself? They don't need to be big or complicated. Start with very simple ones. For example, who is speaking? What is the main idea? What happened first? What will happen next? When you ask, who is speaking, you focus on the person's voice, their role, or their point of view. When you ask, what is the main idea? You train yourself to listen for the bigger picture instead of every tiny detail. When you ask, what happened first? You organize the information in your brain like a timeline. And when you ask, what will happen next? You push yourself to predict, to guess, to think ahead. These small questions keep your brain alive and connected to the conversation. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are listening to a story in English. The speaker says, "Yesterday I went to the market and I bought some apples and oranges." If you only listen passively, you may catch the words yesterday and apples, but forget the rest. But if you ask yourself, what is the main idea? you quickly understand. The speaker is telling me about shopping. If you ask, what happened first? You realize, first, the speaker went to the market. If you ask, what happened next? You notice, then, they bought apples and oranges. Suddenly, the sentence is no longer just random words. It becomes a clear story in your mind. Listening in this way is like being a detective. Think about a detective in a movie. They don't just walk into a room and look at everything casually. They search for clues. They look at the small details, but they also connect those details to the big picture. They ask, who was here? What happened? Why did it happen? When you listen to English, you can do the same. Every word, every pause, every tone of voice is a clue. Maybe the speaker is happy. Maybe they are angry. Maybe they are surprised. If you pay attention and ask questions, you will collect those clues and build the meaning. That is how you become not just a listener, but an investigator of language. Here is another example to show you the power of questions. Imagine a student listening to a short English conversation. Person A, I'm so tired today. Person B, why? Did you stay up late? Person A, yes, I was working on a project until midnight. Now, a passive listener may only hear the word tired and guess that person A had no sleep. But an active listener asks questions. Who is speaking? Two people, A and B. What is the main idea? One person is tired because they worked late. What happened first? They stayed up. What happened next? They worked on a project. What will happen later? Maybe they need rest. By asking questions, the listener organizes the story, remembers more details, and understands the meaning more clearly. Another important part of active listening is learning to pause, rewind, and review. Many learners feel guilty when they don't understand something the first time. They think, oh no, I'm not good at English because I can't understand quickly. But this is not true. Even native speakers rewind videos or repeat conversations when something is unclear. So don't feel guilty. When you pause or rewind, you are giving your brain another chance. You are allowing yourself to collect more clues. This is not weakness, it is smart practice. Think about watching a mystery movie. If you miss one small clue, you may pause the film and go back. When you do this, the whole story makes more sense. The same is true with listening practice. If you don't understand a sentence, pause. Listen again. Ask your questions. Who is speaking? What is happening? What words do I recognize? Each time you repeat, your understanding becomes clearer. The key is to remember that listening is not a test. It is training. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay active. You just need to keep your brain awake. The power of questions helps you do that. Every time you ask who, what, when, why, how, you are pulling yourself into the conversation. You are building your comprehension. So from today, I want you to think like a detective when you listen. Don't just sit back and let English pass by. Collect clues. Ask questions. Pause and rewind when needed. And most importantly, never feel guilty for listening twice or 3 times. Because every time you do, you are training your ears, your memory, and your confidence. Remember this. The moment you start asking questions while listening, you are no longer lost. You are active. You are focused. You are building fluency one clue at a time. Chapter 5. Turning listening into speaking. Now that you understand how powerful listening can be, it's time to take the next step, turning your listening into speaking. Listening gives you comprehension, but speaking gives you fluency. These two skills are not separate. They are connected like two sides of the same coin. When you listen well, you fill your mind with words, phrases, and natural expressions. And once your mind is full, you can bring those words out through speaking. The truth is simple. Fluency begins with listening, but it comes alive through speaking. Think about this. Every single day, you hear countless sentences in English, in movies, in songs, in lessons, or in conversations. Each of these sentences is like a ready-made tool. They are already built, already natural, and already correct. You don't need to create everything from nothing. When you listen carefully, you are collecting a bank of ready-made sentences that you can use in your own speech. For example, when you hear someone say, "How's it going?" you don't need to translate or invent a greeting. You already have it. You can copy it. That is the power of listening. It gives you language you can use immediately. Here is the emotional truth I want you to remember. Every word you hear is a seed. When you repeat it, it grows into your fluency. At first, it may feel small, weak, and slow. But the more you water that seed with practice, the stronger it becomes. Soon, you will have a whole garden of sentences, phrases, and expressions that you can use confidently in conversation. So don't ignore the words you hear. Collect them. Repeat them. Let them grow inside you. Now let's talk about techniques you can use to make this connection between listening and speaking even stronger. The first technique is called the echo technique. This technique is simple but powerful. You listen to a short piece of audio, and then you repeat it immediately after the speaker, like an echo. If the speaker says, "I'm going to the store," you immediately say, "I'm going to the store." The key is to do it quickly, without pausing too long. You don't need to worry about being perfect. The goal is to train your tongue and brain to respond instantly. With time, your response speed becomes faster, and you will notice that in real conversations, you can speak more naturally. The second technique is called imitation. Imitation means not just repeating the words, but copying the tone, the stress, and the speed of the speaker. When you imitate, you become like an actor playing a role. You copy the way the speaker rises and falls with their voice. You copy how they stress certain words. You copy their rhythm. For example, if a speaker says, "That's amazing," with strong stress on amazing, you don't just say the words. You copy the excitement in their voice. This makes your English sound natural, not robotic. Why are these techniques so effective? Because they train your mouth and your ears at the same time. When you echo, you are practicing quick reaction. When you imitate, you are practicing natural rhythm. Together, they prepare you for real-life speaking situations. They give you confidence because you are no longer guessing how to say things. You already practiced them through listening. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are listening to a short English podcast. The speaker says, "I had a wonderful weekend at the beach." You practice the echo technique and repeat right away. "I had a wonderful weekend at the beach." Then you practice the imitation technique, copying the exact rhythm and tone. After a few times, the sentence feels natural in your mouth. Later, when your friend asks you about your weekend, you can easily say, "I had a wonderful weekend at the beach." You didn't memorize it from a textbook. You borrowed it directly from listening and turned it into speaking. That is fluency in action. Another important point is that listening gives you confidence for speaking. Many learners stay silent in conversations because they are afraid of making mistakes. They think too much about grammar rules or translation. But when you listen and repeat, you don't have to invent sentences. You already have models. You already know how real speakers use the language. And when you copy them, you are speaking correctly and naturally. This reduces fear and builds courage. Think about it like learning a song. At first, you just listen. You hear the melody, the words, the rhythm. Then you start singing along quietly. You echo the singer. Finally, you sing loudly with confidence. Speaking English works the same way. Listening is your first step. Echoing and imitating are your practice steps, and fluency is the result. So here is what I encourage you to do every day. Choose a short piece of English audio, maybe just 10 or 20 seconds. First, listen carefully. Then use the echo technique. Repeat immediately after the speaker. Next, use the imitation technique. Copy the tone, stress, and speed exactly. Do this again and again until it feels natural. Slowly, your speaking will become faster, smoother, and more confident. Remember, fluency is not magic. It is the result of small daily actions. Every time you listen and repeat, you are adding another brick to your fluency. Every time you imitate, you are polishing your pronunciation. And every time you connect listening to speaking, you are building confidence. So don't just listen and stop. Turn your listening into speaking. Collect those ready-made sentences. Repeat them. Copy them. Use them. Because every word you hear is a seed. And when you repeat it, it grows into your Fluency Chapter 6, building confidence through active listening. Now we arrive at the most important part of the journey, confidence. All the listening practice, all the repeating, all the shadowing, they are not just about understanding English. They are about building something much bigger inside you, the courage to speak without fear. Confidence is the true reward of active listening, and it is the key that opens the door to fluency. When you first start learning English, everything may feel heavy. You may read well. You may write slowly. But when people speak fast, their words sound blurred, like water rushing over stones. You feel lost. You nod politely, but inside, you don't understand. This is normal. Every learner begins here. But little by little, as you train your ears, something beautiful happens. Words that once felt like noise start to separate. Sentences become clearer. Ideas begin to connect. And then, one day, something magical happens. You realize you are watching a movie, and you forget to turn on the subtitles. Suddenly, you understand. Your heart jumps with joy. In that moment, your confidence grows like fire. Confidence is not built in one day. It grows step by step, just like a plant grows leaf by leaf. Active listening gives you the water and sunlight to grow that plant. It improves your comprehension, so you no longer feel lost in conversation. It improves your memory, so phrases stay inside your mind ready for use. It improves your speaking, because you echo and imitate real English. And most of all, it improves your confidence, because you begin to trust yourself. The question is, how can you build this confidence in a practical way? The answer is small goals. Big goals, like, I want to be fluent in English, often feel too heavy. They can make you feel like you are climbing a mountain with no end. But small goals are different. They are like small steps on a staircase. If you take one step each day, you will reach the top without fear. So here is a simple plan. Choose one short English video every day. It doesn't have to be long, maybe just 3 minutes. Watch it once with subtitles to catch the main idea. Then watch it again without subtitles. Don't worry if you don't understand everything. Even catching 50% is success. Then, pick one sentence and repeat it out loud using the echo or imitation technique. That's it. Just one video, one sentence, one step forward. Next, set a weekly goal. For example, one podcast per week. Maybe a short one, maybe just 5 minutes long. Listen once for the big idea, then again for details. Write down 5 new words or phrases. At the end of the week, review those words and try to use them in your own sentences. Imagine how powerful this becomes after 1 month. That's 4 podcasts, 20 new words, and dozens of sentences repeated. Step by step, you are growing your confidence. And here is something very important. Celebrate small wins. Many learners focus only on what they don't understand, and this destroys their motivation. They say, I missed too many words, or I still don't understand everything. But this thinking is wrong. Progress is not about perfection. Progress is about growth. If you understand 5 new words today, celebrate. If you can follow the main idea of a video, celebrate. If you repeat one sentence with good rhythm, celebrate. These small wins are not small at all. They are signs that your brain is growing stronger, your ears sharper, and your voice braver. Think about it this way. A child learning to walk does not give up because they fall. Each step, even if shaky, is celebrated. Parents clap, cheer, and smile. Why? Because they know every small step leads to running one day. You must treat your English journey the same way. Every word you understand, every sentence you repeat, every conversation you join, these are your steps. And one day, you will run with fluency. Now, let's imagine the final vision together. You walk into a room full of English speakers. Before, you would feel nervous. You would stay quiet. But now, something is different. You listen, and you understand. Not every word, but enough to follow the conversation. You hear a phrase you practiced yesterday, and you use it. People nod, smile, and respond. You keep talking. Your heart feels light, not heavy. You are not afraid anymore. This is confidence. This is fluency in action. And it all began with listening. So remember this. Listening is not just about hearing sounds. It is about building understanding, memory, speaking skills, and above all, confidence. The day you realize you can understand without subtitles, your heart will jump with joy. The day you repeat a sentence naturally, your voice will shine. And the day you join a conversation without fear, you will know that every moment of listening was worth it. Make a promise to yourself. 1 video a day, 1 podcast a week, 1 celebration for every small win. Do this, and you will not only learn English, you will live it. You will speak naturally, confidently, and without fear, because you mastered listening first. If this video helped you see the power of active listening, give it a like. It lets me know this message reached your heart. And if you're truly ready to practice listening every single day, write in the comments. I am an active listener. I'll personally reply and cheer you on because I believe in your journey. Remember, English fluency doesn't start with big grammar books. It starts with small steps of listening every single day. So subscribe now for more simple and powerful English lessons. Lessons that don't just teach you grammar, but give you the tools to understand, to speak, and to shine with confidence in real life. Your English story begins with your ears,